Why have we been witnessing more and more natural disasters all around the world in the recent years? Why have average temperature risen?
Human activities are driving up the Earth's temperature and changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but keep some of the heat from escaping, like the glass walls of a greenhouse. The more greenhouse gas is in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's level in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets such as Greenland and Antarctica are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the ocean, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops become more difficult, the areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. Climate change can directly affect physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart diseases, and cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, humans are also the ones who can combat it.
As we have seen, climate change has a scientific cause with consequences on you, on the weather, on the planet. But there are also economic causes and consequences. Climate change arises from several market failures. First, the environment can be considered as a public good. It is not the exclusive property of anyone, and a large number of people can enjoy the benefit even though they haven't paid for it. Because there is no cost and there has been an apparent abundance of air and water to consume at no cost, there has been a massive overconsumption of the environment. Another issue is that wherever there is dealing in a public good, such as the atmosphere, there will be free riders, as seen in some past attempts to address environmental pollution by business. The second market failure leading to climate change is the greenhouse gas externality. For over 200 years, we have had pollution from a wide range of industries which have never borne the full cost of their production. The cost of pollution has been externalized wherever possible and has been passed on to the community and the future generation. So, unregulated markets have overproduced CO2 because the costs were not priced into the transactions. Other market failures also lead to climate change, such as the lack of information available on the market and the failure for governments to regulate markets and allocate scarce community resources. In fact, there is an optimal amount of pollution where the society's well-being is maximized with respect to environmental quality. The marginal cost of pollution, or marginal damage, is the additional environmental cost, like increase in greenhouse gas emission, that results from the production of one additional unit. The marginal abatement cost is the cost associated with eliminating a unit of pollution. Marginal damage can be interpreted as the marginal benefit of reducing emissions, and the marginal abatement cost is the marginal cost of reducing emissions. Therefore, the efficient level of emissions, the level which maximizes social net benefits, would be where MD and MAC are equal. As you can see on the graph, it is the point of intersection of MAC and MD. However, this optimal level of abatement is hard to reach in the real world as we don't have enough information, but it can help guiding environmental policies. Instead, regulators will have to set target level of emissions or abatement and implement policies to achieve those goals. To maximize welfare, we have to achieve this target at the minimal possible cost, which means finding the cost-effective abatement. This cost-effective allocation is reached when we allocate abatement among multiple sources, such that marginal costs of abatement are equalized. There are several policy solutions to control and reduce pollution: command and control and market-based regulations. Command and control regulation are laws which specify allowable quantities of pollution and which pollution control technologies must be used. Among market-based regulation, we can distinguish between economic incentives through emission taxes and cap and trade. Emission taxes are a fee collected by the government for each unit of pollutant. The cost-effective allocation is reached when the marginal abatement cost equals the emission charges. Cap and trade regulation sets a maximum level of allowed pollution and creates a market price for emissions with permits which are given or auctioned to firms. Firms can then sell or buy excess permits.
Although not implementing any policy to limit the effects of climate change can be less costly in the short run, delaying action is very costly on the long term. Economists use the social cost of carbon to suggest how much people should be willing to pay now to avoid climate damage to future generations. It can be defined as the net present value of the damages caused by 1 ton of emitted CO2. The results of a recent study show how much each country will suffer in future economic damages from each new ton of carbon dioxide pumped into the atmosphere. And it appears that the future economic costs for the US are the second highest in the world after India. The United States' share of the global social cost of carbon will be around 12%. The study also suggests that the US has been underestimating how much it benefits from reducing its greenhouse gas emissions. Overall, in 2100, the global GDP per capita is likely to be 23% less compared to a world without climate change. To act on climate change, we must have a two-tier approach through mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation aims at stabilizing the level of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere and reducing the emissions that are warming our planet. It includes various strategies: increasing efficiency in electricity production or transport, developing ways to capture and store CO2 emissions from fossil fuels, switching to renewable energies such as wind or solar electricity. Adaptation is about adapting to life in a changing climate by reducing our vulnerability to the effects of climate change with fire or flood prevention or preparing for drought. Adaptation is done mostly at a local level. States and especially cities are major actors and have been focusing on solving their own climate problems by improving their water storage, building flood defense, or implementing special plans for heat waves. A third possible solution, which can complete the two first, is geoengineering. Geoengineering is a way to counteract climate change by acting on Earth's natural systems with techniques such as solar radiation management or carbon dioxide removal.
In November 2018, Trump dismissed a study produced by 13 federal agencies and more than 300 scientists, warning of the potential catastrophic impact of climate change. And you, what do you think now?